Thank you. Ajmera Group has been for 5 decades, 51 years in this line, and it's seen too many ups and downs through. So current nightmare, in your opinion, is how severe? What are the pain points?
As you rightly said, honestly, I have personally seen 2-3 downfalls, from '98 and 2008 and this one. And yes, every cycle has its own pluses and minuses and ups and downs, but probably this is looking even more worse or bad is primarily because of the volumes. That point in time, probably a deal would be 5 crore, 10 crore, 20 crore, and today none of the deals in Bombay are below 100 crores and 200 crores or 500 crores. So you see the volumes merely have really been expanded to tenfolds. So, and at the same time, why I feel this all, there has been a sudden disruption, although RERA came in, which is very good, but, people in India or probably, many developers or customers were not very still for it, or they were not ready for it. So that gave a big bolt to the market, and people had to actually get into RERA and legal issues and stuff like that. Plus this liquidity crisis which came up from the NBFC. So I think there were 3-4 issues which really coupled, although we had, like a majority coming in the government, which we thought that probably now you see a very stable government coming in and, single party winning, handsomely. So it looks damn good for the next 5 years. But I think there has been a severe, strict, I would say the principles have been very strict from the government to ensure things happen the way it's written in the book. And earlier probably it was more of a flexible kind of a thing, okay, theek hai, aisa nahi to we will manage it this way. But right now the government is absolutely going by the books, is what my feeling is, which is actually hampering a lot of business where practicality is not really looked completely into the end. So that's where I feel you are seeing a major or a severe disruption happening very fast and in a bigger volume. So I see this has its own challenges. Obviously the challenges are there. To an extent the government is right, to an extent government needs to be practical. So there has to be a middle path which is actually not coming in. It is really required at this point in time. Secondly, I feel that today, all said and done, these are issues, there are challenges. And as Parth rightly said that, the housing in India will never go down. There has been the biggest advantage what we all have is the population. And housing requires, there is inherent demand for housing everywhere in Bombay or Bangalore or Pune or wherever you go. So this, I don't see a slowdown coming in there, but yes, these are temporary because sentiments, as Parth said, is the primemost thing for, for a buyer to take a decision, because we all are emotionally driven for any decision, and specifically home. For us, for us as Indians, the mentality of homes is a very emotional decision. And I don't think anyone probably will take from their mind, definitely, but it is like 20, but to me, 30-35% is mind and 60-65% is emotional driven. So, this is very important, and as we hear this negative news coming in and all of that, everyone goes for a pause. So today, some positive article coming in, things really start moving back again to attract. Just to give you a small example, I was just discussing with him, that every day there was a negative, and suddenly when this Article 370 came in, and then somewhere that positive vibe started coming in, and honestly we saw the effect in August in the sales, because the sales actually started moving up as compared to June or July. So you see, primarily our decision from the buyers is not related to how the market moves or what do they see as economy, but it is again 65-70% driven by the sentiments and the emotions which are going around. And if they feel that something is wrong, then may as well hold it. Everything is going down, NBFCs are going down, someone is defaulting, this is happening, that is happening, so this is not the right time. But at the same time, they know that I want to buy a house. But this is where it is becoming a very, catch-22 situation for, every one of us. which I think primarily needs to be really clarified. And you move. Obviously, housing is a very emotional decision, and which will always stay, according to me, for Indians. It cannot be that, okay, today I feel the housing index is 2% higher, so I should move forward, or they don't take decision. If I buy a flat, I like a flat, I go ahead, otherwise I will not go ahead. So I think most important right now is to really create a lot of positive vibes in the market, probably from anywhere and everywhere. It just cannot only be for a real estate, or it cannot only be for, auto sector. Everywhere if we see, once, I'm just giving you one 370 article 370 news and positive news or sentiment started flowing. So this is very important for specifically India is what I feel.
Ashok, your opinion. You've been in business for about 35 years? So you've seen most of the ups and downs that we know of. He mentioned about the ups and downs. I think we can compare it right now to a boxing match. And some of the players I've seen forget about getting up on the count of 3. They are flat out. Even on the count of 10, they are not going to get up. So what is your opinion on the nightmare and the boxing match that's going on right now?
About his business operations, and the top of the priority is to service the construction expenditure, see that the projects are in time. The nightmare for him to delay is the RERA, because he knows there's a sword hanging on him by the RERA authorities. That's one of the biggest nightmares he's facing today. And what comes to him in daily basis, or people who are really getting nightmares from developers who are getting nightmares, are developers who are leveraged, small or to a larger extent. The lenders being calling back the money, or the servicing to the lenders. These are the nightmares. And what he finds difficulty is the velocity of the sales, the quality of money, that is the sales money coming down to an less extent, and service these both major factors, the construction expenditure as well as the financial expenditures. If you call about really nightmares, yes, to some extent it is there. We, or myself, have seen period which had gone into a pause mode. That is 1996 and later on. Pause means it was to such a pause extent, you did not have one inquiry any in the given month. We did not have collections of 25,000 rupees in each month. Total month's collection was 25,000 rupees only in the year 97, 98, 99. That is possible. Good to it by the government policy as well as the demands. The industry is not going into pause mode. It is still surviving. There are two different coins. One, there are difficulties. Other, there are new projects being launched. So, as developers, I have adopted to the current policies of the state to the central governments, and try to make out new things from it. Nobody can, or one should not also try to get the whole existing projects into an cash positive or an PLN method. Losses will have to be done. It is better to have a parallel projects which would give it a good EBITDA and equate to the losses. So wealth creation also happens in a developer line in a multifold. Similarly, even wealth erosion will happen.
So I think after having heard all four of you, my personal opinion and feeling is, I think the number one nightmare is meeting the financial obligations. Like my friend from Ajmera said, that the monies have multiplied and the amounts, there are big stakes. And to meet up to the commitments of these stakes is where every single thing is interlinked. So the development industry is like a Rubik's Cube. And for that matter, the whole economy is also like the Rubik's Cube. Because you move one thing and it's all interrelated on all the sides. And no matter which side you turn around, it's a financial implication that causes the losses. And when they are compounded, mixed together with, it results into low quality, late deliveries, RERA defaults, and everything else is interlinked. And those people who are able to meet up to the financial commitments stay afloat. Those people who are not, don't stay afloat. And they need to really slash down on their employment. So we heard that 400 people have been sacked from Loda or whoever else. Every developer is downsizing, but just that one has been published about. So I think it is a very complex affair right now. And the Rubik's Cube is not really understood. People are doing a lot of guesstimations. And everybody is talking of some positivity because they themselves need to stay afloat. Because if they really acknowledge the situation, their lenders are going to be there at their doorstep. And the lenders are already at the doorstep. It's a matter of moving inside along with them. Like some of the developers, the lenders have moved in with the developers and taken the marketing and sales of those properties and projects. Now, given the situation, with your years and years of experience, Parth, what do you think is the way out in the most difficult time and the most challenging time? We've seen 98, I agree, it was at a pause, but the numbers were manageable. With personal resources, you could fund in, get there. Now the volumes have grown to such large amounts, and especially developers who are working in the big four are facing the onslaught, and NCR region. These are the two main areas. So what do you think professionally an organization or sound practice management should do within the given environment?
Very well put up, Jimmy. Basically, continuing from where Ashok ji said, we are not in a static environment, we are in a dynamic environment where things are moving. According to me, the single largest thing will be how compliant are you? Because currently we are in an external environment which is so unforgiving in nature that any small mistake earlier used to only cost us money. Right now that mistake can give us other impacts which are unwarranted and which can really tarnish a developer's reputation. So I feel with every slowdown and downturn, there is a consolidation phase that happens in any micro market or industry specific, where a lot of self-actualization really comes in, where whether it is, I won't say staff cutting or downsizing, but optimizing overall resources, ensuring how you can stay afloat in these turbulent times. As a young organization, being 4.5 years old and being about 12 years in the industry, it has by far been one of the slowest periods that we've seen, where everything has flocked in together. But one positive thing, what you can bring out of this is now, rightly, only compliant players will survive. So the level playing field has become so small, where people who acknowledge the current issue and take not only a haircut, but they take a severe haircut, will only survive. So if you survive today's time, then you can thrive later. Today, according to me, a lot of developers, including ourselves, are first looking at being compliant and delivering the project on time, discharging all the other obligations, discharging government obligation as well as lender obligations. With this, in this current scenario, with a low sale coming in, a low-lying fruit there, margins being shrunk, only innovation in sale will not do. Now a lot of various things everyone is saying, like developers have entered into barter arrangement with contractors. A lot of funds who had invested in the land stage, early funding, have started taking inventory from developer, helping them to sell, etc. So I think across the board, bankers and financial institutions have also understood that there's no point only declaring a developer NPA or non-performing. They have to handhold him. Previously there were lenders, now everyone is a businessman lender. By defaulting people is not the solution. They have to handhold and ride the tide. Because in a city like Bombay, where there is three-side water, according to me, every product of a right size and price that is made, in that building you'll not even see 10 apartments not having electricity on in the night. What does that say? That if you complete your product, whether you make money or no is secondary. First you are having the ability to complete the product, then at least everyone gets an exit. So the first premise, which is always should be there in the industry, is how can you deliver your product? How can you complete your ongoing construction by any manner? Whether that is selling at cost, whether it is selling in a manner where you are able to map your cash flows or reduce your cash exposure and go in for other alternate arrangements where you can have helping hands, whether it is collaborating with a contractor, with a developer, co-developer, with a bank, and create that last mile funding, bridge funding. Because what I see across the board is a lot of people are still hopeful that the NBFC and the banking industry will revive soon, which according to me will take time for the simple reason the pain is too hard. When any kind of blockage is there, the reopening of the blockage really takes time, because there's a lot of filtration process that will happen, a lot of sanitization in the system will be required. Thereafter only things will start pulling up. So if organizations look to survive up to 2021 March, or at least year and a half from now, just to discharge and meet obligation, I'm sure that the next turn which will come will be very good, because then only compliant guys will be there who've understood the psyche of the new government, who know the rules of the game, who are very clearly working as an industry that this is our way of working, this way funding will be available, this is the skin in the game, and things will not have a kind of a fugazi kind of a effect. That irrational exuberance won't be there. So once that culture builds in, until then I think it's the game only of survival. Yes, for a city like Bombay, what the positive part for, I think, Dhaval, etc. will understand and they'll acknowledge the same, that at a price, there is a buyer. Today, if you are cutting a price and your work, of course, is at advanced level, there is a buyer. Now, it is the whole convincing skill of your organization or the aptitude that how you can convert that transaction into a sale and get off your inventory. So, in Bombay specifically, if in a right budget and right sizing, I think there is sale. We just need to get through this moment in a manner where just think innovatively. That's all.
So well said, optimizing your resources and optimizing your method of working, that's the takeaway, and I agree with that. However, completing the project depends upon your ability to be able to make the sale at the right price which is acceptable to a buyer, so that you at least have a transaction. But in my opinion, the biggest impediment in the entire industry, and especially the high value product, I'm not talking of the low value product, is the minute you lower the prices, every property is mortgaged and there's a calculation and there's a valuation based on that unsold inventory calculation and your exposure. The minute you lower the price, your 1.5 or 2x, whatever margins you had given, becomes a big question mark, and the promoter is expected to bring in the differential value. So if it's 1 flat, 2 flats, 20 flats, promoter can bring in, but if the entire inventory gets devalued, then the project becomes non-viable and it turns into a good loan, turns into a bad loan. This is one of the biggest impediments across in the industry, because the valuation of the entire unsold inventory is a question mark. So unless the regulatory authority takes cognizance of this and doesn't tantamount it to restructuring, that's the technical hitch as far as I'm concerned. So, Jay, I mean, we have a consultant amidst us who advises day in and day out on anything and everything real estate. So, what do you think is the takeaway in times like these? What are the solutions that one can provide, or one should work with the best practices within the Indian scenario? Because best practices worldwide may not be applicable to the Indian real estate segment. It's a completely different ballgame. So in your opinion, what is it that one should be doing or advise to the management of these corporations which are struggling to complete their projects, meet their financial commitment, keep up their reputation?
I'll begin with one saying, and I feel it's important at this juncture. What brought us here may not take us there. It's important for us to realize. We generally draw examples from past, but it may not be that relevant at this moment and as we go further. See, we need to understand what developers are and what this whole development process is. If I go ab initio, I would say it's a sum total of 3-4 inputs. So you have someone who owns the land, you have people who are in need of housing. A developer comes in with all the enterprise, all the visioning, tries to draw everyone together, brings in a funding partner for working capital requirements, and then delivers it, right? Now, why I wanted to draw back to this origin is, there are few fixed things and few variables in this equation. So obviously land and the land component is fixed. The two big variables are sales and construction. And this is where the game gets really spoiled. Now, the sales bit also is something which is dependent on construction significantly. I've seen, fortunately I got a chance within JLL to run developer project business for 5 years, and now I'm running the occupier business. So I've seen both the worlds. I've seen developers who are very authentic, very disciplined, and like we are partnered to few companies who deliver something like 5 to 10 million square feet every year. So you can imagine the volumes I'm talking about. So it's about thinking this modeling very rightly. If we are able to model it well, I think success will be there because any which ways business is flowing. When I say modeling, what I mean by that? When we started, at that moment we were very keen to cut cost everywhere. So if I go deep in construction now, we started with labor contractors. We started thinking BOQs. We started backward integration. Some of the developers even got concrete, like now mixing plants and everything put together to get maximum out of it. And in the process, they themselves got so much involved in the process, they went in a direction which was beyond their control. If we are able to model things in a way which are outcome based rather than process based, I repeat, if we are able to model things in a way which are outcome based rather than process based, making partners and alliances which takes ownerships and which are liable for things, I think things can change. Because then you are not the only one guilty. There are 3 people holding hand with you who can be guilty. And obviously as a team you work better. So what I am trying to say is lump sum contracts, factory finished buildings, technologies which are very predictive using BIM models. This is how world has grown. This is how you have seen Malaysia turn around, Dubai turn around within a span of few years. If you really want a change, this is the ways and means. I'll give you some examples where people start cutting corners. Residential business is always with a change, and change management becomes a very important integral part. So whatever segment of flat you sell, there is an element of change. Now, does that change really pass to the contractor? We squeeze contractors to an extent that their businesses are unprofitable. And when then they are unprofitable, they deliver it in a way which are wrong. So if you don't model it at the first place in the right thing, then outcomes will be shaky. I hope I'm making sense in terms of how these things are important and how these things become so crucial. So contractor was thought as the last person in the race, and his interests were never thought as that important. And you see the outcome, and you give the importance to the contractor in a rightful way. You have Burj Khalifa and whatnot in front of you. So I guess this is what is the piece we have to tie together.
So basically collaborating, working together, optimizing your resources, these are the takeaways so far. Alliances together in different ways, different forms across. So at Ajmera Group, what are the 3 things that you guys are doing to make sure that you stay ahead of the curve? Because one, I've met and spoken, and I'm a friend with too many builders across. And I think that one fear and worry that a builder has, and for that matter any entrepreneur has, is what is it that I'm missing and I'm not seeing which others are seeing. So constantly that fear, psychosis plays on you, and that keeps you ahead of the curve in a way. So under these given situation where the environment is, spirits are down, sentiments are down, everything is down, what is it that you at Ajmera Group are doing 3 things to make sure that you still stay ahead of the curve?
So, we are very clear in 2-3 things. What, basically, while everything is there, frankly, for us, honestly, we see probably this time as an opportunity for us to grow as a brand. Because as Parth rightly said, that now within the time to come, or probably 5 years down the line or 2 years down the line, there will be level playing field or developers who will be there, who's been a developer for over the year or period and has experience, plus who has the intent to only follow the rules and regulations and work. Otherwise, they cannot survive the game. So we are very clear on this, and most important for us is, as you know, our legacy of 51 years, which we want to really retain and take this even more further and forward. So honestly, today, for a buyer or for a banker or for a supplier or whoever it is, a brand value becomes a very, very important thing. And I think, whichever developer is, if they really survive towards enriching or even enhancing the brand value, is where I think the growth will come even more faster for them. So we are ensuring 3-4 things. Just to give you a little bit of a technical brief. Honestly, we've as the times have now become very very challenging. We have ensured and seen that we go back onto the drawing board to see where we can actually save money or try to get the design even better efficient, or probably look at things where we can merge around. So few of our projects, we've ensured that we look at the quantities or purchases done in a bulk way so that we save money, and we standardize the items so that you have less wastages and all of that. So these are some measures where you are becoming more and more efficient in terms of your planning, design. We ensure in terms of marketing and sales, we are ensuring that whatever is the thing today, customer, maybe there are few customers coming, but whoever those customers are coming, we ensure that till the last mile that customer is being held or seen or discussed, and then only is left. So maybe these are very small things, but I feel eventually if these things are taken care at the bottom level to an extent, it will eventually help you survive through this tough times. And today, I mean, just to give, I feel that, as I told you, the brand value plays a very, very important role for the customers in today's time. So we have seen that, movements keep on coming to those players which are actually surviving and, progressing in their work in spite of whatever the things are. So if you have a financial closure for the project, which we as a company make it as a practice to do it day one before we start the project. So if you have, so there is no stopping of the project in between unless there is some change in a regulation or something like that. But financially, we ensure that we are not stopping the project for any reason whatsoever, be the market going down, up, or there is no sales. We will ensure that the building is over and the project is over, and then when people start seeing that kind of work happening even in all these times, the confidence of there also comes back to see to it that okay, no, these guys have moved on in spite of whatever it is, and that's where you will see sales happening. Those are the players where you will start seeing sales happening. The moment, because as the sentiments are, lower or not good, and when you see the project being stuck, it even becomes, it goes 5 steps below. So it is very, very imperative and important for us to see that whatever happens, the work should not stop. You go for a closure, financial closure, and complete the project at any cost. Second, and for us, most important is enhancing and bettering our brand value for whatever reasons by doing things which we ensure that today you giving that kind of trust to the developer, to the the buyers, to see to it that you don't come under a negative thing. So far as possible, touch wood, we've not been into a RERA ever. So these kind of things really help to a developer, to a buyer to see how you can actually judge the developer or things. So these are the things. I would say these are the ingredients for us to take the brand value higher, which I think is the most important thing to survive in this tough times, and then to take it forward.
So if we sum it up in priority order 1, 2, 3, financial closure at the beginning of the project, that's most important and critical, but may not be possible for practical reasons, but that's a given. Retaining the brand value is something that you really focus on, and third is focus on economies of scale. How can you bring down your cost of purchase? So these are kind of mota 3 things that people can have a takeaway. So what does your organization under your leadership do? And you are a tough taskmaster. I think people know that in the industry. So what is it? It'll be interesting to hear your opinion. What are the 3 things that you do in your organization?
Same on the lines as Mr. Ajmera tells. Okay, yes, these are the core focuses. And if time comes, go to your lender, tell him, you can have a control on my accounts on daily basis. I'll send the daily bank statement. Let me complete the project.
The bankers don't listen to this. NBFCs may. Otherwise it becomes restructured.
So maybe we should all put it to the government that the NPAs should not be categorized in this way, and maybe one more cycle of the same lender and the same buyer be allowed as a new policy to come in.
Yes.
That could help you out, because the banker or the lender wants to stay with the borrower. The law does not reveal sin. There can be a statement, it's a nice takeaway right now coming from...
We'll discuss in the next round very quickly. We'll discuss what policy changes we all are hopeful for.
As developers, we should give our maximum time to the office and go into micromanagement, try to do the best and try to hold on with all the employees you have, make them believe in the organization that this is a time, it will go fast and it will go away and there will be again when the company grows, the employees will also grow.
We all wish the nightmare goes away very soon and we wake up nice and morning happy. Ground realities, like you said, all of us are like a pressure cooker waiting to steam out policy change. Everybody is screaming loud, some say it very vocally, some for obvious reasons want to be politically correct and not talk about. But let me ask my panelists, what are the policy changes which are topmost on your agenda if you had a position, a control of power? And that question goes to all my panelists. What are the 2 or 3 top policy changes that you think with your experience will really impact ground reality in the short term? Long term, everything is fine. In the short term.
So by any means, do we have the liberty to think mid-term or long-term? It's only short-term we can think of. So
that's a good one.
Cross the bridge one at a time. Yeah. So basically, we as a company are dealing into, when you see a problem or slowdown in an industry, the first thing is important to go and understand from where your customers are coming. We've got, with our CRM team, we have almost a fortnightly event where it's an interesting thing I'd love to share first, so it'll link up from there. To understand what are the issues or reasons where payment delays happen, cancellation happen, and 60 lakhs to about 1.2 crores. Where, of course, the volumes of sale have gone down, but at the same time, recoveries are also low because now the subvention having a jolt as well as the stricter norms by banks for the home loans, etc., which was not there when NBFCs were giving. So the quality of the files are very important. So we understood things like people are today struggling with basics. Like for example, they have their children's education, 2 vehicles that the husband-wife own. They have an existing rental or an EMI of an ongoing smaller premise on. And then they've made a preposition to buy a new place. Because every human thinks in an exponential manner that our tomorrow is always going to be better than today. That's the way humans are. At today's juncture, people are really having struggles with their day-to-day lifestyle. So for them, a house is becoming a luxury. At such times, it's easy for us to give up and say, okay, nahi de raha, cancel kar do, or maybe sell to someone else. But it is not that easy, which used to be yesteryear. So our team has been consciously sitting across customers and basically kind of getting into a la carte arrangement where we retain such people. Because today, as a developer, if I have to pay back within the RERA norms the money, so one, I'm already struggling to meet my existing cash flows, and then I have a new outgoing every month coming in if I have to pay back as per my contract of RERA, as per the norms of RERA. So it's very important that we retain these customers, because as a company, we are not in a business of sale. We are always in a business of resale. Companies which have thought of only selling have not existed or gone beyond a decade. It is only companies who have thought of being in a resale business, they have sustained. Because our industry is such a industry which is renowned for its value system. See, we all get into physical issues where बोलते ना आटे में नमक होता है, but नमक में आटा अच्छा नहीं है. That's the idea. So till your value system is in place that you don't want to cheat anyone and deliver, and if same message goes down to the last employee and your customer, the moment times turn, you will have a sale. Now, keeping this in mind, coming on your context as a policy, what we are understanding is there is really very, very strict norms where home loans eligibilities are concerned. We worked in an environment where a lot of NBFCs, which are now in trouble, have been very accommodative in granting home loans and giving solution to retail buyers, where sales and volumes had really spurted up, which was very good for the overall industry. Now with bankers coming in already, out of 10 customers, the true eligibility is come in only for 4 or 5 customers. You all may agree with me, what I'm saying. So automatically the effort that is going in conversion is being lost and not percolated as a proper sale. So if the norms can be adjusted in a manner where people's liquid income is considered, they are more liberal towards home loan and retail financing, that will really help in sale, to the pass-through charges that we are facing, whether it is GST, etc. Now that is indeed gone over the roof. Across industries, good quality companies work on a 10 to 15% EBITDA, provided everything work well. For a real estate, even if we want to work, we cannot work because we have more than 12, 13, 15% charges, which are pass-through charges. So as a customer, eventually we have to load it on them. And guys who are smaller, we are mainly into budget sizes below 1.5 crore, etc. That 5 lakh or 6 lakh rupee additional burden is a make or break decision for that customer. They really struggle to decide whether they should take that punt or not because of that additional amount that is coming because of pass-through charges. So until the industry is afloat and things are shaping back, I think government really needs to look at the GST or maybe increase the affordability cap to 70, 80 lakhs, etc. Because in Bombay, nothing is 45 lakhs. It's realistic that we come
Unless
to
it's in Virar.
Sorry?
Unless it's in Virar.
Yeah. So it's tough. Third thing, as a policy for government, I feel RERA, which is a very big hanging sword on all of our neck, where every default of a developer is encapsulated. But a systemic failure is not encapsulated. Whether it is, like we all have faced situations where we have sanctioned limits, working capital money only to be used for construction, that is not being given on time. Or that monies which were supposed to receive are not coming. Or the home loans where subvention interest we all are paying, the institution is not giving us money and we are continuing to pay the interest. So the systemic choke which is there, until everyone is held accountable, you cannot only pass the burden to just the developer, because that will never let this industry, that will refrain people of entering this industry. People who are qualified to make a good product, give good housing at affordable rate, etc., they will shy away from coming in this industry. Or people who are there today, I don't know, many of my friends who've been here since almost more than 2 decades, 3 decades, they don't want to continue the business going forward. They want to wind up, shut the shop, get into another kind of business and not encourage their family members also to continue with the second generation. It's for the simple reason that today we all are compliant, or we all are in a regime where we want to do things the manner, but things are not always in our control. Things are in external factors which are beyond our control. So where RERA regulation or MUFA regulation, contract obligations, laws have to encapsulate certain delays. Or
We talk of lower GST. One is ease of finance or kind of ease of norms for financial eligibility, which has been covered in the previous panel discussion and the one before that in the morning. And the third part that you want is RERA to be accommodating, which is not a generic law but a more specific law, encapsulating the entire gamut of activities around financing, because that's a make or break decision. So from your point of view, what is it that if you were a regulator, what are the 3 things that you would do to bring and end the nightmare of developers across? Because I feel developers have been character assassinated beyond the point. Yes, there were some black sheeps, but we all knew who they were. I don't think everybody had to be penalized for that. Now today the developers have been character assassinated to a point where people are in their heart of heart happy. Ye bhi gaya, acha hua. Ye bhi gaya, acha hua. And that mentality has to change, because all developers are not the dacoits.
No, and let me put that personally, I feel that the enterprise level that developers has is immaculate. You can't believe the kind of visioning and thinking and the risk-taking appetite these guys have. So kudos to them. And I would strongly believe to that point, I would like to bring the one aspect that I've seen in the commercial side of the real estate in India. Today, 25% is owned by funds. And believe me, I feel not so great about it all across, because at the end, this was developed by some Indian enterprising guy. So I would seriously believe that this should not creep into residential side, and we should still hold our forts that strong as a country. Coming back to your questions on policy initiatives and changes, for sure the changes that has been gotten into the GST aspect, both for affordable and non-affordable segment, I personally believe that that's quite logical and a relief. Also bringing in RERA is important. I believe the reason is that you need to segregate good and bad between the lot. And it is the intent is towards that direction. I know there are hassles in implementation, and at times it put pressure on already stressed environment, but at the same time it is bringing discipline to the business. And I don't think too much policy in getting into business is a great environment. If at all I could think of what will make sense is about opening up of land parcels for development. See, one big reason of failure of this whole industry is like unreasonable cost of land. And we have been talking about it, but actually speaking, there is no solutioning that is coming in the forefront that, okay, to this problem, which is like unreasonable land prices, how do we tackle it? So if government could help in one way or the other, I know it's not an easy thing to talk in terms of to bring about, it's easier talk than done, but if government can open land parcels specifically meant for housing needs, with the right allocation and a right format in one way or the other, that could be another welcome change which will have housing matching the spend capabilities of people.
So the positive side is your suggestion is opening up of land parcels, and currently what is going on, GST and RERA, both the things are on the right path. So opening up of land parcels will bring down the land prices and therein make housing more affordable. So again, coming back to both of you very quickly, since you're running out of time, so we can take some questions. If you were a regulator, what is it that you would wish? A very, very summarized, quick wish list. Who knows the passing angel will just grant it to you?
Well, the most important thing I feel in today's time is liquidity. I think only focus and only agenda for anyone and every one of us should be liquidity. I mean, historically we have seen that when the government during, the 98, 99 times actually started was when they did the home loan at 7%. They brought down the home loan from 10% to 7% at that point in time. They gave ATIB, which was a liquidity issue. The tax was at risk. So these kind of, stimulus packages are definitely required. Today, if you bring down the home loan to 7%, the sentiments improve. You give a moratorium period for all the developers or whoever who has gone, who is about to get NPA, and you can actually see that 60% of the project is ready or something like that. Give a moratorium period of 1 year. They have a liquidity that gives them ease of doing business. I mean, the businesses can work on. And if we focus on these 3-4 things and getting down on the GST, because honestly, GST cost is actually increasing the cost rather than decreasing. So I think these 3-4 things, if we really focus on, because once we have this, rest all things will automatically follow. I don't see anything issues coming in. But prime most important right now is liquidity, which needs to really eased out and get into place.
I think, endorse all the suggestions. The most practical suggestion and valid suggestion is to regulators to understand, give moratorium periods for projects which are correctly funded but which are stuck due to the following reasons, to make sure that moratorium of a year, 15 months is going to bring in the liquidity and see the project to fruition, which in effect at the end of the day helps the buyer, because the buyer has done a deal to move into the house of his dreams. And this crunch is going to take it away. So I've seen good developers going kaput, good projects becoming NPAs, and because the project is becoming an NPA and the developer is running helter-skelter to do everything that he had never dreamt for himself to do. So this is very quickly with you. What do you think?
The buying capacity of an individual can be increased, and what the government can take is, rather than the minimum margin which an home buyer should pay, where it ranges from 5 to 10%, if it can be brought down to 1 to 2%, that can increase the buying capacity of an home buyer, because say whatever would happen in the era today and coming ahead, the individual expenditure and the living standards have increased and it is not going to go back. So savings percentage will always be less. And in such scenario, if he is eligible to pay his EMIs very properly, the capacity to increase his home loan, that can be increased, which will help out, because we face majority of telling us, I don't have 5 lakh rupees nahi hai mere paas, main ko ghar lena hai. And we sell in 25, 50 lakhs, 60 lakhs rupees an hour. So that can be one thing which government can look into. how lenders can stay with the borrowers in a long term by any some policies, so that which they are also willing to, that could be incorporated. Rest.
That's one of the most important changes, lenders staying with the borrowers and government trying to bridge that gap in between via PSUs, NBFCs, all put together. So some kind of a regulator controlling this, which is right now in the extreme, considering the fact that every developer is a chore. Because literally it is tantamounting to that the way it is right now. But if a lot of the projects can be salvaged, also what is happening, because the project is not being salvaged, the quality of construction, the design, international architects have been sacked, Indian architects have been brought on board, which is good in a way, but the quality of design is really deteriorated because the developer, like you said, is trying to optimize its cost and lower it down to the best possible extent. The quality of construction is suffering. We've seen multiple projects in Bombay. Facilities management services were promised in the beginning, but they cannot afford the big ones. Now small-time facility companies literally are running the show. The overall development, what was envisioned, is no longer even relevant to what was promised. So these are some of the realities, hard-hitting ground realities that we are facing today. All in all, I think we've tried to impart whatever knowledge we have across to people, and I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to us as much as we've enjoyed delivering our knowledge to you. Any questions for our panelists?
I think it's time that we actually speak from the heart. The government has taken our industry for granted, and we are seeing some recent changes with leaders from Chhajer are being more vocal. This is the first time in event here, economic time events, right from 9 by, that we have been little vocal, that we have been taken for granted. So I think this is, it's a question as well as a suggestion that we got to be more vocal, and our message should be loud and clear to the government that for a nation building and to achieve a $5 trillion economy, I think our industry needs to be saved.
I agree with you. Also upholding our financial institutions, continuing the liquidity, more accounts not going kaput, more accounts not becoming NPAs. All of this is correlated, interrelated, because more accounts go NPAs, more people lose their jobs. People lose their jobs, they cannot pay their installments.
So we need to get more aggressive now. So
absolutely.
Dhaval, you are right there as a young MCJ leader. So we got to take this lead and we got to be more vocal.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
There's some cemented jungles. But what are the green initiatives that all of you are taking in terms of developing a society? Like we say customers, I'm giving you this amenity, X amenity, Y amenity. How about the, giving it back to the environment altogether? Like we do have a concept called corporate social responsibility, wherein people contribute just because it's regulatory. But when it comes to, renewing your own society's water, maybe using it for the flushes, green initiatives, maybe wherever land areas you have, keeping the nature intact, and then accordingly planning the construction rather than, making the artificial gardens, artificial trees. So what is the initiative any one of you have taken towards that?
I think if I can talk for the industry, our current environments have become so red hot that we've stopped thinking green. Having said that, I think all the new generation developments are having some or the other green initiatives in them, and people take pride in these are the differentiating factors, design, green technologies being put to use. These are some of the things that developers do as a differentiating factor from one project to the other. Most companies are environmentally sensitive and not just on paper. So the good developers, they know their future rests only if they take care of the environment. Construction-based management, construction scrap management, all these things are being put into place, and things have really changed in the last couple of years. There was a time when a rapid truck used to be just called and it would cart, you would not worry where it is going, what is going. But now I think things have really changed. Apart from that, new generation technologies in air conditioning, VOC-free paints, urea formaldehyde-free polishing systems, all these are in place day by day. Method of construction is changing, it's gone through a sea change. But yes, to answer from my point of view, situation is red hot right now, and green can be looked at once the red is out and you're in a more comfortable zone. You again go back to delegating resources for the green, because today it's about optimizing resources.
As paradigm, we are not into slum rehabilitation projects, etc. On another side of the discussion today that we are having. We've opened a foundation called Paradigm Foundation, where what we do is we are rehousing the old slum dwellers into the new rehab building. So we've created a fund where we design and make their furniture. For example, a slum dweller goes into a 300 square feet house or 269 square feet house. For him, moving a standard of living only from a kind of a horizontal development to a vertical development itself is a difference. So buying a furniture or making a bed or having basic things also become an issue. So we've created for those needy people a scheme in which we give them, for example, a 30,000 or a 50,000 rupee work they've done, which gets equated into EMIs, which they give us during their tenure. So if a guy is earning 7,000 rupees, he can pay 500 rupees per month, and he gives us during a period of time. We do it at our project cost and give it. Second, we've made an association for ladies who stay in the rehab building, where adjoining there is a slum sale component. So we formed an association being led by another basically agency, where any house help, washing of cars, etc., cook, etc., can be made available from the adjoining building only. So that creates a lot of employment rather than those guys putting those houses back on rental and going back into shanties. So that's one initiative we are doing. We are right now getting affiliated with another group where we are under Paradigm Foundation. Every apartment we sell, a percentage of that apartment from the proceed goes towards a foundation, which is towards child care and towards old age home. Because those are the two principal things that when a person is born, how he can uplift his life and ensure that he gets a basic education. On the other end, who are the age-old homes where the adults who are not getting taken care in a right way, they can be taken care in a manner. So each year we want to add the number of people that we can take care. So this is a small endeavor in our own way that we have tried and created. Thanks.
Excellent. Would you like to add something?
Government also putting a lot of hardness and pressure, or as a condition to where we have a bigger layout or a bigger complex, you should have a sewage treatment plant, you should be doing rainwater harvesting, you should be doing this, that, solar panels. So all that has become very, very standard, and that is it's a necessity as a regulation than giving it as an amenity. So definitely for all projects where you have a larger layout or a bigger complex, definitely we all are adapting all of that. But at the same time, we've also come up with a few ideas or thoughts that actually what we try to do is, when we are making a building, can we actually increase a natural daylight coming in, so thereby reducing the electricity, thereby reducing the airflow? Can we have a cross ventilation? Obviously it's not possible everywhere, but wherever, whatever is possible, because natural ventilation will reduce the electricity in terms of air conditioning or AC or fans, and then you have more natural light coming in, which will reduce your power and all of that. So get into obviously LEDs and all these are given, that okay, LED lights or sensory boards where the light automatically shuts down. Those are mostly given as a part of the project. But what I'm just trying to say is somewhere design parameters which can actually get in more natural air, light, which will actually eventually help the project or the building save their electricity and make it more greener, somewhere towards the greener organization or the contribution towards the greener. But beyond considering the sewage treatment plant, the rainwater harvesting, your plants and greenery, all that is now become, even if the government doesn't say or puts it as a regulation, I think most of us which is having a bigger complex are doing that just to be more environment friendly.
Okay, I guess guys, all is not lost. There's a silver lining at the other end of the tunnel, and we have a growing population. Housing is a requirement that's never going to go out. People will need to eat, people need to live and stay. And like he said earlier, for us Indians, housing is a very emotional matter. We are at peace and we rest in peace only when we have a roof on our head that is owned by us and not a rented apartment, unlike the rest of the world does. So we come to the end of this session, and thank you all for being here, and have a good evening.